So Keith, why don't you tell us a bit more about what Stanley Gibbons does exactly?
We've been around for 159 years, specialising in the sale of rare stamps and more recently rare coins. Initially for collectors and in the last 5 years for investors after the global financial crash.
And we recently saw that Picasso painting go for something like $179 million, breaking all sorts of records. And I'm just wondering what kind of value your market has and what kind of valuations you're dealing with.
Well, I'm glad you raised that because the world's most expensive stamp was sold last year for $9.5 million US. Wow. Now, in comparison, it pales. But actually, if you do a size to value ratio, it would probably make the Picasso worth something like $15 billion US in proportion.
So I'm just kind of wondering who the typical investor is.
It's a question I get asked quite a lot, and in fact there is no such thing to a certain extent as a typical investor. We've got pensioners, retirees, we've got entrepreneurs, we've got young families doing a bit of legacy planning, we've got Asian businessmen. It really covers the gamut of investors.
And why invest in stamps and coins? I mean, what kind of returns are we talking about here?
We're seeing returns of anything between 7 to 14% per annum. I had a guy complaining to me the other day because he only made 77% return over a 5-year period. It turned out that a friend of his who'd invested with us about 10 years ago had made 202%.
And you've got some examples of stamps and coins. Is that,
absolutely.
Do you want to show us?
Well, this is the world's first stamp. This is the penny black. Yeah. So this is the stamp that launched the communication revolution. 175 years ago, Queen Victoria said, we need to get the UK and the British Empire communicating on every sense, for commerce, for communication, love letters. Let's get the world connected. So 68 million of these were printed. Now this one here is worth £120,000. So that's not bad for a tiny little piece of historical paper that somebody else has licked.
No.
From a coin perspective, I've got 2 coins with me. This first one is actually Alexander the Great.
Wow.
So that's a little slice of history. You know, we get excited about 175 years of coin history. This is 2.5 millennia right there. The melt value of that coin is a few £100. The collectible investment value is around 4,000. When you look at a coin like this, which is the biggest British gold coin ever struck, 1642, Charles I, this coin again has a melt value in terms of bullion of £1,000 or £2,000, but an investment value of between £80,000 and £100,000 because there's only 200 in the world. So when you invest in stamps and coins, you're actually buying little slices of history.
Let's talk about risk. I mean, there's always a risk in any type of investment, but what's the kind of risk involved in investing in stamps and coins?
Like any investment, there's no guarantee. This is a very, very stable market because it is relatively illiquid and it's uncorrelated, low beta. So investors like it for the long term. Clearly, if your financial situation changes and you need to get out quickly, it takes more time to liquidate a rare stamp and coin portfolio, anything between 3 weeks and 3 months, than it does to dump your stocks. You're
seeing a lot of business in Asia and in China in particular, and why don't you tell me about how Chairman Mao may have helped that side of things?
Well, Chairman Mao did us a great favour because he banned stamp collecting, because that was bourgeois. Stamps were there for utilitarian purpose. So, of course, since the 1980s, the early 80s, the Chinese have come back in their millions to reclaim not just a part of their own heritage, but also with increased freedoms, increased wealth, and a lot of them having a wider focus. It's what I call a sort of reverse imperialism. They're now banging on the table and saying, we've got the money and the power now, we'll have a few of your penny blacks and your gold coins, thank you very much.
That's really interesting. Keith, thanks so much for coming in today.
It's a pleasure, thank you.